E-Leaving's solid form was superior. Now they see all fluid life as primitive and worthy only of harvesting for energy. Hana looked at the display again. The crystal ships were moving in a perfect formation, their attacks precise and coordinated. The Volari ship was trying to fight back, sending waves of energy toward the attackers, but the Ket easily avoided them. "Your defenses aren't working," Hana observed. "Our fluid thinking cannot counter their rigid tactics," Jin admitted. "They attack in patterns we cannot predict." Hana studied the movements of the enemy ships. Her military training from Earth allowed her to see something the Volari could not. "They're using a standard pincer formation," she said. "It's a basic battle tactic where I come from. Look, they're not actually random. They're following a strict geometric pattern." The Volari gathered around her, their light patterns showing interest despite the danger. "Your weapons target their centers," Hana continued, pointing at the display. "But look at how the energy flows between their ships. Their power comes from the relationship between the crystalline edges, not their cores." Tay's body pulsed with realization. "You see patterns we cannot. Will you help us?" Hana nodded. "Let me direct your defenses. If we disrupt the geometry of their formation, instead of attacking each ship directly, we might break their coordination." The Volari quickly created a control interface that Hana could use with her solid hands. It felt strange. Part solid technology from her escape pod, part flowing Volari tech that responded to her touch like a living thing. "Concentrate your energy here and here," Hana directed, pointing to the spaces between the Ket ships. "Don't try to damage them. Try to push them out of formation." The Volari followed her instructions. Instead of direct attacks, the flowing mind sent pulses of energy that passed between the enemy vessels, disrupting the perfect angles of their formation. Almost immediately, the effectiveness of the Ket weapons diminished. "It's working," Q exclaimed, body flashing with hopeful light. "Now," Hana said, "while their formation is broken, send a concentrated pulse at the lead ship's communication array. There, that crystal extension on the top." The Volari ship focused its energy. The pulse hit the target perfectly. The lead Ket ship's lights flickered and its movements became erratic. "They rely on perfect coordination," Hana explained. "Without it, their rigid thinking becomes a weakness, not a strength." The Ket ships began to retreat, their perfect formation now broken and their attacks uncoordinated. "They are leaving," Elder Tay announced, his body glowing with relief. "You have saved us, Hana Park." The other Volari surrounded her, their bodies pulsing with gratitude and wonder. "How did you know what to do?" Jin asked. "Humans have fought wars for thousands of years," Hana said sadly. "We understand conflict in ways you don't. But today, that knowledge helped protect life instead of taking it." Tay moved closer to Hana. "You have shown us that your solid nature gives you strengths we lack. Perhaps we have been wrong to think fluidity superior in all ways." Hana smiled. "Different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means we have different gifts to offer." As the Ket ships disappeared into the distance, the Volari began repairing their damaged ship. Hana watched, wondering what this victory would mean for her future among these strange but wonderful beings. 3 days after the battle with the Ket, Hana stood in her quarters, looking at the small escape pod that had been her home during those desperate hours when she thought she would die. The Volari had repaired it completely. Its systems hummed with new energy, and its navigation computer was programmed with coordinates that would lead her back toward Earth space. "You could return to your people," Tay said, flowing into the room. His body rippled with soft blue patterns that Hana had learned meant thoughtfulness. "We can direct you toward your home system." Hana ran her hand over the pod's smooth surface. "How long would it take?" "At the speed this vessel can travel, approximately 6 of your Earth months," Tay replied. "We would provide supplies and modifications to ensure your safety." Hana nodded slowly. 6 months alone in the tiny pod. Then, what? Return to Earth as the sole survivor of a failed mission? Face the questions, the investigations, the pity? "What if I didn't go back?" she asked quietly. Tay's light patterns shifted to purple surprise. "You wish to stay with us? Is that possible?" Hana turned to face him. "I've been thinking about it since the battle. On Earth, I always felt different, disconnected. Here, my difference is actually valuable." Tay moved closer, his fluid form rippling with excitement. "The Elder Council has discussed this possibility. Your unique perspective saved our ship. Your solid thinking brings something new to our collective." More Volari flowed into the room. Jin, Q, Day, and others Hana had come to know during her time aboard. Their bodies pulsed with patterns of light that Hana recognized as happiness. "We have never integrated a non-Volari into our collective," Jin explained. "But the Council believes it might be possible to create a connection that would allow you to join our family while maintaining your solid form and individual consciousness." Hana felt a lump in her throat. "You would do that? Accept me as one of you?" "You already are one of us," Day said simply, the young Volari's lights glowing warmly. The connection would just make it official. Later that day, Hana found herself in the central chamber of the ship. The walls pulsed with patterns more complex than any she had seen before. All the Volari had gathered, their bodies forming a flowing circle around her. "The integration requires technology we have never tried before," Elder Tay explained. "Using your human devices combined with our fluid technology, we believe we can create a neural interface that will allow you to communicate directly with our collective while maintaining your human form." Hana watched as the Volari created a small shimmering object that looked like a drop of liquid metal. It floated in the air before her. "This will bond with your nervous system," Jin explained. "It may feel strange at first, but it will not harm you. You can end the connection at any time if you wish." Hana took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready." The liquid metal droplet moved toward her and touched her forehead. Instead of feeling wet, it felt warm, like a gentle touch. It seemed to dissolve into her skin, leaving only a small shimmering mark that caught the light like a tiny star. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, Hana felt it. A presence in her mind, but not invasive or controlling. It was like hearing distant music, feeling the emotions of a song without necessarily catching all the words. She could sense the Volari around her, their thoughts and feelings washing over her like gentle waves. "Can you hear us?" Tay asked, but his mouth didn't move. The words formed directly in her mind. "Yes," Hana whispered, amazed. "I can feel you." All. The sensation grew stronger. She could sense the ship itself, alive and aware around them. She could feel the joy of the Volari, their welcome surrounding her like an embrace. Yet she remained herself, solid, individual, human. But no longer alone. "Welcome to the family, Hana Park of Earth," the collective voices said in her mind. Tears ran down Hana's cheeks. She had never felt so connected, so understood, so completely accepted. Later, as the ship continued its journey through space, Hana sat with Day and several young Volari, teaching them about human concepts. "So this is what humans call a hug?" Day asked, carefully wrapping part of his fluid form around Hana's shoulders. Hana laughed. "Close enough, it's how we show affection without a collective link." "And this is laughter?" another young Volari asked, producing bubbling patterns in its form that mimicked Hana's sound. "Exactly," Hana smiled. "You're learning fast." Tai approached, his form glowing with curiosity. "You seem happy, Hana. Do you regret your choice?" Hana shook her head. "Not at all. On Earth, I always searched for a place to belong. Who would have thought I'd find it among beings so different from me?" "Perhaps not so different inside," Tay suggested, his lights pulsing gently. "Are you sure you're not melting a little bit?" Day asked playfully. Hana laughed again. "No, I'm not melting, but I've never felt more fluid." "The Elder wishes to speak with our visitor," Jin explained to Hana. "Do not be afraid, we mean you no harm." Hana nodded, her mind racing with questions. She was alive, rescued by beings made of living fluid, on a ship that itself seemed alive. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. "I have so many questions," she said. Tay's body rippled in what might have been laughter. "As do we, Solid One. As do we." Hana sat cross-legged on the floor of what the Volari called the knowledge chamber. After 2 weeks aboard the flowing mind, she was finally getting used to how everything constantly moved and shifted. The floor beneath her adjusted perfectly to her sitting position, creating a comfortable seat that supported her solid human form. Across from her, Tay's fluid body rippled with blue and green light patterns as he examined the damaged datapad. From her escape pod, part of his form had extended into a thin tendril that somehow merged with the device's inner workings. "Your technology is so rigid," Tay observed. "Fixed pathways for energy to travel. No adaptation or growth." "That's how all our technology works," Hana explained. "We build things outside our bodies because we can't change ourselves." Jin floated into the chamber, his body glowing with excited purple pulses. "The Elder Council is most impressed with your survival stories. They wish to learn more about how solid beings solve problems." Hana smiled. The Volari fascination with her solidity had initially been annoying, but now she found it endearing. Their genuine curiosity about humans matched her own wonder about them. "So your entire civilization is fluid-based?" she asked, watching as Tay reformed part of his body into what looked like a complex tool to repair her datapad. "For us, staying. In one shape would be like death," Jin explained. "We flow, we change, we adapt. This is life." "But you maintain some consistency," Hana pointed out. "I can still recognize you as Jin, even though your shape changes slightly." Jin's surface rippled with what Hana had learned was their expression of pleasure. "Yes, our core patterns remain even as our forms adapt, much like your human thoughts change while your body stays fixed." Suddenly, an alarm sound pulsed through the room. Not a harsh noise like human warning systems, but a pattern of tones that seemed to vibrate through the ship itself. "What's happening?" Hana asked, standing up quickly. "A disconnection," Tai explained, his form pulling back from the datapad. "A young one has become separated from the collective consciousness." They hurried to another chamber, where several Volari had gathered around a small blob of fluid that pulsed with erratic, dim light patterns. Unlike the other Volari, this one, Hana learned, couldn't maintain a consistent shape. It kept collapsing into a puddle, then struggling to reform. "What's wrong with him?" Hana asked Jin. Day was exploring a new section of the ship when an energy fluctuation occurred. Now he cannot reconnect with the ship's consciousness. Without that connection, he will eventually lose cohesion. The other Volari were trying to help, extending tendrils of themselves toward Day, but nothing seemed to work. Their light patterns showed distress and confusion. "You've never had this problem before?" Hana asked, surprised. "It is rare," Tay admitted. "Our connection to the collective is usually automatic. We do not understand why Day cannot rejoin." Hana watched carefully, her mind working in ways the Volari's collective consciousness didn't. As a solid being used to being separate, she thought differently. The energy fluctuation might have changed his resonance pattern, she suggested, like how radio signals need to be on the same frequency to connect. The Volari's light patterns flickered rapidly as they considered this idea. "Can I use some parts from my escape pod?" Hana asked. "I might be able to build something that could help." The Volari quickly brought materials from her pod, using tools they created by reshaping parts of themselves. Hana assembled a simple device using components from her pod's communication system. "This should create a resonance field," she explained. "If we adjust it to match the ship's frequency, it might help Day reconnect." They placed the device near the struggling young Volari. Hana carefully adjusted the settings while watching Day's light patterns. Suddenly his erratic pulses steadied. His form firmed up and bright blue light flowed through him again. "It works!" Jin exclaimed, his whole body glowing with bright yellow joy. "Day is reconnecting." The young Volari rose up, forming a more defined shape. His light patterns expressed what could only be gratitude toward Hana. "You think differently," Tay observed, moving closer to Hana. "Your solid nature creates unique solutions we would never consider. Humans have always had to solve problems as individuals," Hana explained. "We don't have a collective connection like you do." Later, in her adapted living space, Hana recorded a new log entry on her repaired datapad. Day 14 aboard the Volari vessel. "Today I helped save a young Volari by thinking like a human. They see my solidity not as a limitation now, but as a different kind of strength. And I'm beginning to see their fluid nature not as alien, but as another way of being. Perhaps being different isn't about being better or worse, it's about having different gifts to share." The attack came without warning. Hannah was in the observation chamber with Jin, learning about Valari star maps, when the entire ship shuddered. The walls around them rippled with pulses of red light that Hannah had never seen before. "What's happening?" she asked, steadying herself as the floor beneath her feet trembled. Jin's body flashed with urgent patterns. "Danger. We are under attack." The observation chamber's walls suddenly became transparent, allowing Hannah to see outside the ship. What she saw made her gasp. 3 massive vessels surrounded the flowing mind. Unlike the flowing organic shape of the Valari ship, these attackers were all sharp angles and crystal planes that glittered like diamonds in the starlight. "The Ket," Jin explained, his voice pattern showing fear. "They hunt fluid life forms." Hannah watched in horror as beams of intense white light shot from the crystal ships, cutting into the outer layers of the Valari vessel. Where the beams touched, the living material of the ship froze and cracked. "We must get to the central chamber," Jin said, leading Hannah through corridors that were now pulsing with alarm patterns. In the central chamber, Elder Tay and the other Volari were gathered around a floating sphere that showed the attacking ships from all angles. Their light patterns flashed in what seemed like panic and confusion. "They found us by tracking the unusual energy signature when we rescued your pod," Q explained to Hannah. "They have been hunting our kind for generations." "Why?" Hannah asked, watching as another attack hit the ship, causing everyone to shake. "The Ket were once fluid beings like us," Elder Tay explained. "Long ago they chose to crystallize themselves be." Commander Hannah Park stared at the blinking red light on her control panel. The emergency oxygen system was failing. Just 6 hours of air remained. She looked out through the small window of her escape pod at the vast emptiness of space. Stars twinkled in the distance, beautiful but uncaring about her fate. 3 days ago, her research ship had been torn apart by a sudden micrometeorite storm. The tiny space rocks had hit like bullets, punching holes through the hull. Hannah had barely made it to the escape pod before the main ship exploded. She was the only survivor. "Day 3 of emergency recording," she spoke into the pod's computer. "Still no response to distress signals. Pod systems failing one by one. Life support critical." She sighed and brushed a strand of dark hair from her face. The emergency beacon continued to pulse, sending its silent cry for help into the void. But this far from established space lanes, the chances of rescue were almost zero. Hannah had volunteered for this deep space mission knowing the risks. Earth wanted to map the uncharted regions beyond the Cygnus asteroid belt. As mission commander, she had led a team of 6 scientists. Now they were gone, and she would soon join them. "If anyone finds this recording," she continued, "please tell. My brother sung that I was doing what I loved, and tell Earth Command that the Cygnus Delta region contains unexpected radiation patterns that affected our sensors. That's probably why we didn't detect the micrometeorite field until it was too late." The pod drifted slowly toward a colorful nebula. Under different circumstances, Hannah would have been excited to study its swirling gases and intense colors. Now it would likely be her grave. She checked the emergency supplies again. The medical kit was untouched. No point using medicine when oxygen was running out. The emergency rations would last weeks, but she only had hours of air. The cruel irony made her laugh bitterly. "At least the view is nice," she said to herself, watching as the nebula grew larger in her window. Strange lights pulsed within its gases, blues, purples, and colors she couldn't even name. She wondered if the radiation might affect her pod's remaining systems, but it hardly mattered now. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her head. The carbon dioxide levels must be rising as the oxygen recyclers failed. Soon she would become confused, then sleepy, then she would simply not wake up. Not the worst way to die, she thought. "Final log entry," Hannah whispered, her voice growing weaker. "Pod approaching unknown nebula in Sector 7G of my charts. Oxygen at critical levels. If by some miracle this recording reaches Earth, know that we discovered something unusual about this region of space. The radiation patterns here don't match anything in our databases. There could be something important here worth sending another mission. Just be more careful than we were." She closed her eyes for a moment, fighting the growing headache. When she opened them again, something strange was happening. The nebula seemed to be moving, not the slow drift of cosmic gases, but purposeful movement, as if it were reaching out toward her pod. "That's impossible," she muttered, wondering if oxygen deprivation was causing hallucinations. Then she saw it. Within the swirling colors was a massive shape, something solid and structured. It was huge, at least 20 times the size of Earth's largest space stations. As it moved closer, she could see it wasn't exactly solid. Parts of it flowed and shifted like liquid metal, changing shape even as she watched. "This can't be real," Hannah whispered, fumbling for the pod's camera controls. If she was seeing an alien ship before she died, she wanted proof. The camera whirred to life, capturing images of the impossible object approaching her. A strange light suddenly enveloped her pod, not the harsh beam of a tractor ray like in the movies, but a gentle, pulsing field that seemed to seep through the hull itself. The pod's systems, nearly dead moments before, suddenly flared back to life. The oxygen indicator jumped from red to yellow. Then came a sound, not through the pod's radio, but somehow directly in her mind. It wasn't words exactly, more like feelings translated into meaning. Damaged entity detected. Retrieval initiated. Is the consciousness intact? Hannah tried to respond, but darkness was closing in around her vision. The last thing she saw was her pod being drawn into a giant opening in the strange vessel, surrounded by rippling, flowing walls that seemed alive. Then everything went black. Hannah woke up slowly. Her head hurt and her mouth felt dry. She was lying on something soft that moved slightly under her body. The air smelled strange, clean but with a hint of something like rain. The solid entity is activating. Look at the eye coverings moving, the sir. Strange voice made Hannah open her eyes fully. She wasn't in her escape pod anymore. The room around her had no straight lines or hard surfaces. Everything flowed and moved like water, yet somehow kept its shape. The walls shimmered with soft blue light that pulsed in patterns, and there were beings watching her. 3 creatures stood nearby, if standing was the right word. They looked like human-sized blobs of blue-tinted gel. Their bodies rippled and changed shape slightly as they moved. Waves of colored light passed through them, purple, green, and gold. "Is it melting?" one of them asked. A pattern of purple light flowing across its surface. "Why does it stay in that shape?" Hannah tried to sit up. To her surprise, the bed beneath her shifted, forming a backrest to support her. "I'm not an it," she said, her voice rough. "And I'm not melting. This is just how humans are." The aliens moved back slightly, light patterns flickering rapidly between them. "It speaks." The middle one's surface rippled with excitement. A mechanical voice translated the light patterns into words Hannah could understand. "A solid-state consciousness, capable of communication." The tallest alien moved closer. "I am Tay, Chief Medical Officer of the Valari Collective vessel, Flowing Mind. You were nearly depleted when we found you." Hannah touched her throat, still unable to believe she was alive. "You saved me? How?" "Your primitive life pod was leaking atmosphere," said another alien, this one smaller with faster-moving light patterns. "We absorbed it into our ship and replenished. Your breathing mixture." "I'm Hannah Park, commander of the Earth research vessel Horizon," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My ship was destroyed by micrometeorites." "We know," said the third alien. "We accessed your recording device. I am Jin, navigation coordinator. This is Q, our communication specialist." The smallest alien surface flickered with yellow light in what might have been a greeting. Hannah looked around the strange room again. "Where exactly am I?" "You are inside a healing chamber of the Flowing Mind," Tay explained. "Our vessel is both ship and living entity. We share existence with it." Q moved closer, its body stretching upward with curiosity. "Why do you maintain that rigid form? Does it not limit your functions?" Hannah almost laughed despite her situation. "I can't change my shape. Humans are solid. We're born this way." The 3 Valari pulsed with light patterns between themselves. Hannah realized they were discussing her, perhaps too quickly for the translation device to keep up. "Fascinating," Jin finally said. "We have encountered many life forms in our explorations, but never a naturally solid, intelligent species. The Only solid beings we know are the Ket, and they chose to crystallize themselves. Hannah tried to stand up. Her legs felt weak but supported her weight. The floor beneath her feet seemed to adjust to her movement, providing perfect balance. Your body contains many damaged components, Tay observed. We have repaired what we could understand, but your structure is strange to us. Thank you, Hannah said sincerely. You saved my life. Q's surface rippled with gold light. All consciousness deserves preservation. Jin approached with something that looked like a floating ball of water. Inside was Hannah's emergency data pad. From the escape pod, your communication device was damaged. We attempted repairs but were uncertain of its proper configuration. Hannah took the pad. Somehow it worked perfectly, despite being completely waterlogged. How is this possible? We maintain a compatibility field around solid objects, Tay explained. It allows them to function while inside our environment. A portion of the wall suddenly melted away, revealing a corridor beyond. Another Volari flowed into the room, its body larger and pulsing with complex red patterns.